I'm going to start with you, Andrew. Should everyone be allowed to strike?
Well, look, they're not now.
No.
So the police can't, and the army can't. So that's the armed forces, because one of the most important jobs of any government is the protection of the citizens, protection of the realm. I'm loath to say you ban certain categories, but I do think. Who was it? One of your panellists there said you go into a caring profession designed to save lives and make people better, and then you go on strike knowing that could lead to a loss of life, deterioration in health. The teachers are going to vote tomorrow. Well, we're going to find out tomorrow if they're going on strike. The Children's Commissioner, Rachel D'Souza, has said in a piece in one of the newspapers today, this will damage children. It shouldn't be allowed to happen. That's what she's saying. It should not be allowed to happen because kids have already been stuffed by the education unions during COVID because they insisted that schools weren't safe and teachers would be exposed to COVID. So children have had a terrible, torrid time. And the idea that they're going to go on strike again. So I think the government has to toughen up this minimum service law. In Spain, for instance, last year, the Spanish government legislated because they wanted to stop Ryanair grounding all the planes, because that's the end of their tourist industry. Spain can't manage without tourism. In France last year, where they have a lot of strikes, the French government used the same legislation to stop a strike at oil refineries, which was in danger of paralysing the country. Why aren't we doing it? We should be. We should be going a lot further, a lot tougher.
The principle of withdrawing your labour, I think, is an important principle that should be protected. But there are certain industries and certain, maybe not industries, but there are certain professions. And I think the NHS, unfortunately, for the people who work in it, I think it falls into that category of being so important for other people. Now, the teachers, if they go on strike, it's going to affect children's education. Doctors and nurses walk out, potentially it's going to cost people lives. And I think when it is almost on a basis of potential mortality, then I think that should be classified differently to trade strikes or teacher strikes, because teachers are public servants, so they can decide to go on strike. I disagree with the trade union guy who is just blinded by his loathing
hatred of the Tories.
Yeah, you see, you get him on to talk, and this is typical, unfortunately. You get him on to talk about one subject, and he wanders off and starts talking about asylum seekers. You know, he is blinded by his
and Extinction
loathing.
Rebellion. They were ghastly.
I don't know why I don't know why he was even on.
And let's not forget one of the big donors of Extinction Rebellion gives money to the Labour Party.
Right.
Yeah. So I think, unfortunately, opinions like that hold back reasonable, impartial views like mine, and almost sway me to forming other opinions. Because it's so one-sided. It's just the loathing. And also what he should be careful of is because the new Labour of Keir Starmer, they've already said 19% is ridiculous. Yeah. The nurses want 19% and then they've reduced it to 10%. I run my own business. I would love to pay people a few bob more. You want to try being a private individual who runs a business?
Well, that's the point, isn't it?
And the other thing is, of course, look, we think inflation, it's going to tumble.
Down. Yeah,
and fast. And wholesale gas prices now, I know they buy the gas way in advance, but wholesale gas prices have collapsed almost now to the level before the invasion of Ukraine. Inflation could be down to 5% by November, December. And these wretched unions are asking for a 20% pay rise, paid for by everybody watching this programme out of their taxes.
Well, ASLEF, I mean, they were offered, was it 8% for their drivers? The drivers are on 60 grand.
Before overtime.
That would have brought it to 65 grand. Okay, that's a pretty good salary. They turned it down because the condition was that they would have to modernise. And they didn't really want to do that because that could mean that some people would be made redundant because, obviously, to get that money, they're going to have to find it from somewhere. This is the problem. These trade unions
and the RMT is insisting that there must be no debate about no driver-only trains when we've had driver-only trains in this country for 30 years. And Mick Lynch from the RMT often goes to work from West London into central London on a driver-only train. So what's the problem with them, Mr Lynch?
And the thing is, a lot of these trade union bosses as well are on six-figure sums. So, like, I mean, I think it was 30 out of the top trade unions were earning over 150 grand. Mick Lynch, I think he's on over 80 grand or whatever it is.
And that's his basic.
He's not going to stop. He's not going to not have money.
Which means there are add-ons.
Well, there's the free travel. on the driver-only train.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I'll tell you what would be interesting if you sat down with the unions and said, OK, look, at the moment inflation's high, you're asking for 19%. If we give you a pay rise, but what I do want to do is make a caveat in the contract that when inflation plummets, then it's going to be index-linked. So we will track, if you like, a mortgage tracker that tracks the base of the Bank of England. OK, so we will track that, and if it drops, so then your salary will drop.
But they're lucky because
it'd be interesting to see what they say.
Yeah, but they're lucky because a lot of these public sector workers also, their pay is reviewed by an independent pay body, so they determine how much they're going to get paid. Well, in a private company, if you don't like the wage, you're out. So there's no, they have already a lovely edge, a really nice advantage there, that their pay will constantly be reviewed, especially the nurses and doctors and so on and so forth, to ensure that they are always getting a pay rise. Yeah. So I think they need to acknowledge that.
But the union wallers, they're saying that, well, they're not impartial. They're now starting to question the impartiality of this independent pay review board.
Yeah, it's on the tin. It's called independent. And they've been around for 40 years. But suddenly they're not independent anymore because this lot have decided they're not independent enough.
Yeah. But what do they want then? They want, obviously, a Corbyn-type character. Because Keir Starmer isn't the answer to Jerry.
No.
He's not?
No, absolutely not.
He's a new Labour type.
Well, we've got loads of strikes. I mean, on Monday, we've got the bus drivers, we've got the EIS as well. On Wednesday, you've got the nurses, Royal College of Nursing. Then you've also got the EA, so Environment Agency workers.
Will anyone notice?
No, nobody cares. On Thursday, we've got the nurses again. Then more than 1,000 workers of the Welsh Ambulance Service will strike. Bus drivers.
Run by the Labour Party, the NHS in Wales.
The following week, you've got Unison, you've got ambulance workers, you've got loads of... It's going on. Bus drivers on Wednesday. The following Thursday, Arbello again, bus drivers and NHS physiotherapy staff, employees. I mean, it's just on and on
and orchestrated.
On. It's orchestrated.
It is, isn't it? And it is designed to bring down the government.
It is.
Yeah. So what do you think? I personally don't think everyone should be allowed to strike.
No.
I think blue light things, so for example, ambulance drivers, no. Anybody like that, police, army, no.
And by the way, the ambulance, I think they do a great job. They're paramedics, they save lots of lives. They are the one organisation, without a doubt, in the NHS, that the Institute of Physical Studies, no less, says their pay has kept pace with inflation in the last decade.
And some of them aren't actually paid that badly. Right, well, this